Are you a business asking, when do I invest in AI? How much do I spend? And when can I see the return on investment? In this episode, we break down the financial side of AI adoption and how to make smart strategic investment decisions. Let's accelerate your business. Welcome to the AI Accelerator for Business show, where you get the latest strategies, tactics, and information about getting the business benefits of artificial intelligence. My name is Carl Ye, and I'm joined by my co-host, Jeff Bradshaw, and we're going to be talking about how much to invest when starting AI adoption and how to budget for it.
Carl, and why this matters to business leaders is that AI can drive massive amounts of efficiency. It can cut costs. It can increase revenues, but only if businesses invest strategically. Understanding ROI and financial planning ensures companies can avoid wasting money on investments and really maximizing their AI potential.
And we've come across this quite a bit, where the thinking behind AI is, hey, if we just invest in whatever tool, right? We always rag on Microsoft Copilot, but also I think we've been noticing a little bit more. There's a lot of companies that are producing, or even startups producing, AI tech. So it's like, this specific AI product can help you with this. This specific product can help you with this. It could eventually be that, companies would get inundated, and we've heard this from so many AI products. It's like, this can help you with this. What actually could you do to make sure that that product you're purchasing, just like any software as a service product or any tech tool, how could you make sure it actually meets the goal of your company and helps you and has sort of return on investment? Because right now we're all wild west, and it's so easy to get hyped up on this tool when you spent 200, 300,000, 50,000, 100,000, and then you just find out, it may not actually do exactly what everybody promised it to be doing.
Well, and I think the thing we see it week in, week out is companies need to invest in AI. That's not a question. I mean, companies have to invest in AI. The problem we see is they get so excited about investing, they're sometimes making not the wisest investments. And so they get caught up. A group comes in, they sell them on all the features, they get really excited, they buy it, and then they start using it and realizing that it's not everything that it was cracked up to be. It can't solve the problems they need. Or a week later, a better solution comes out and people are going, damn, I just paid for this one and now this one is out and I'm kind of stuck because now I don't have budget to invest. So I think our big message is always about, you need to invest, but invest wisely and take baby steps. Don't make a big, massive investment, because again, we use the example. We had a client last year who wanted to build a system that probably would have cost $250,000 at the time. We said, it's not a wise investment, wait. And sure enough, the technology's advanced so much in the last 6 months that they could probably do it for half that, if not less, just because of the advancements. So it's pretty critical to think about this strategically.
I think some people, and even some products, people who provide services, forget that from a business standpoint, it still has to match what the company wants to do. And we provide this message too. It's like, it's just playing with AI tools for the sake of playing with AI tools, which we can do for forever, but it has to actually do something for the business, right? So I always rag against the new AI automation agencies or anyone promising that agentic templates, who don't go into a company, don't consider change management, don't consider the actual process of changing behaviors, and assume that the tech actually can just, once you implement the tech, everything should work out around it. But like any other technology, that's not going to happen. We have human behavior to quote unquote combat against, because people just would rather do what's natural and what's comforting to get the job done. So if there's something new and you kind of forgot how to use it, just like me in Excel, I know that I am not efficient in Excel, but I know that my process will get me to the output that is desired. So I'm going to go back to that. Even if there's something that is 20, 30, 50% better than I can do, but I know my output. So how do you combat that? And I think that's a big piece of, when you're thinking about making the investment, you're not just paying the technological price, there's the people price too.
And I think it's about managing expectations, because quite often we go into organizations and they think that they've heard of this AI thing and it's going to completely replace a system, or it's going to do 100% of a certain process. And we always talk about that 10 to 40%. And it's maybe a little bit less exciting when you talk about the 10 to 40%. But if you think about if you think about unbillable man hours in a company, and if you could save 30% annually by having an AI tool replace it, that's pretty exciting because the return on that investment is very significant. But I think a lot of people will try it and go, yeah, it didn't do everything I wanted it to do, so it's not worth it. Well, you got to manage those expectations, and we do it all the time with clients, but people looking at AI have to manage their own expectations.
When should a company invest in AI? I think that's always the piece, right? We always hear it's like, there's so many things out there. When should I get started and where should I get started?
You and I are, we're converted, but I mean, the time to invest in AI is now. AI is moving so quickly. Companies cannot, sit back and wait till Q4 to make a decision, because waiting 6 months, 9 months in AI terms is 6 or 7 years, if not more. And so I think companies need to invest now. And we understand that not a lot of companies might not have budget set aside for an AI investment, but I think you got to start looking at other categories within your annual budget to say, okay, I can take some from marketing, I can take some from operations, I could take some from training, and pool it together to start to invest, because it's happening quickly. It's not going away. It's going to impact your business. So I think now is the time. How to start? We always recommend that people start with developing a strategy. You have to analyze your business and figure out where AI can be used. Whether you use groups like us, or whether you do it yourself, you need to analyze your business and figure out where those efficiencies can be had.
I think that's a really big point, because when we talk about all the vendors that are providing you these tools, right? And we're not knocking the vendors. Like, some of these tools are amazing and have really applicable uses. But the key thing that we find is that every single business has a unique work process, unique workflows. It could be two companies who are competitors, but if we go to one, like, let's take home building, we go to one home builder, their process, their systems, their integration, their software could be completely different than their competitor, even though they're doing the same thing. That one tool that one vendor could be selling one group could be completely irrelevant to how another group works. And I think the mistake that a lot of people are making is that AI in one company could now be just slapped on to another and another and another and another. And I think from a company perspective, you have to understand where your processes, workflows are. What are those things that are repetitive? What are those things that are data driven? What are those things that are boring, mundane things? Because that's what AI is good for today. If you can get started there, come up with that discovery, come up with, all the list of things that, are priorities and workflows and processes, at least now there you have a starting point. It's like this one, this one, this one. Those are high priority. Those cause a lot of pain for our employees. They eye roll a lot. The funniest thing I've ever heard is we have the eye roll test. It's like, if you eye roll of a task that do daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly. One person said, I eye roll at everything. My entire day is an eye roll. So like, maybe that's a bigger problem than something. I don't know if AI can help you with an entire piece. But yeah, so I think that's where you start, because even if you don't do any AI, at least you have something that tells you, oh, these are their processes. This is what causes pain. And a lot of times we even find that it's not you don't even need to solve with AI. There's so many business automations and then processes that you can completely cut.
I think the other thing too there is the holistic approach for your organization, because a lot of the times we'll go in and they'll say, well, we're using AI because the fleet management is using it for predictive maintenance, so we're using AI. And it's kind of like, well, no, there's only one application. Or we see these silos within organizations where one group is doing one thing here and another's testing something there. The third group isn't doing anything. If you want to talk about return on investment, look at a holistic approach, because some of the applications that we talk to companies about could work across the board. So it could work for HR, for finance, for sales and marketing, for operations, for HSE, whatever it might be. And so if you take that holistic approach, there's going to be a better chance you're going to get a return on that investment than just doing these siloed little projects.
And you don't want one group having all the benefits of AI and 3 or 4 groups not having that benefit just because one group has the knowledge to do so, right? Like, that doesn't make any sense for any type of tech, that one group has that tech, and just because they know how to use it, it's like, well, rising tide lifts all boats. So you want everybody to have that knowledge, and you want to empower your people who are go-getters about the tech and make them your champions to enable them to share their knowledge, which I'm sure most people would be happy to share. And maybe they're just facing that frustration because, you have people who are really, really, far out. They want to implement, but that they run into the, like, I guess the barriers, the walls of either finance won't pay for anything, or you've got IT not concerned about security or privacy. So if you have a full organization that backs you and tells IT, hey, we need to actually be a little bit less risk averse, and then hey, we need to put some money into this, it's better overall.
Well, and we always say this, in most of our podcasts, we're saying if you're locking down your system or you're putting it off till next year, your IT department won't you do certain things, what's the risk of your competitor doing the opposite and your competitor really embracing AI technology and really integrating into their overall operations and opening up the floodgates a little bit and taking a few more risks when it comes to data privacy and security? Not to risk anything with the business, but what happens when your competitor does that and all of a sudden they're leaving you in the dust because you've been so, locked down? So it's a concern that I think it's a real concern. And this isn't just a threat. This isn't just some AI guys, trying to scare people. This is what's going to happen. And I think that business leaders need to be aware of this.
When a company's ready to make that investment, how much should they invest? Because no one really knows.
No, you know what? And it's funny. When I think about the investment, it's interesting. I think about the old MasterCard commercial where the couple pulls up in front of the beautiful hotel and they say, can we afford to, stay here? And they said, well, can we afford not to? And that's what I think about AI. From a cost standpoint, it can start, typically I think a company should budget, anywhere from $8,000 to $10,000 to $20,000 for strategy development. We're talking kind of mid-sized companies, small to mid-sized companies. We're not talking a small, single operator company. We know that's a lot of money, but I think for a mid-sized company, that $10,000 to $20,000 for strategy development. And then from there, you probably want to look at about another, $10,000 or so for education from a starting point. But then from there, I think annually, companies should be looking, mid-sized company anywhere from $50,000 to $250,000 annually to look at investing into AI. And that's for developing the strategy, education, and then building some applications that are going to help increase that efficiency by that 10 to 40%. Might sound like a lot of money and a big investment for something that's fairly new. But when you think about, we had a client we just talked about last week, and they said, well, we have, 600,000 unbillable man hours each year. If you take 20% of that and factor in the cost savings, well, that far outweighs the investment into creating these AI tools. So I think that's the way that every business executive team needs to look at it, is what's that return on investment? Because to me, it is a true investment. It's not an expense. If you invest $250,000 in AI tools and development, you should be getting a tenfold return on it. Maybe not immediately, but over a period of time.
For me, I don't think going straight into, hey, I'm going to create an AI chatbot, I'm going to create an AI automation. I don't think that's the right way to start it, because of the fact is you don't know what processes. You may have like 2 or 3 that, hey, those are big use cases, but most of the time you have to talk to your employees to figure that out. You may have an idea, but some of your employees or the teams themselves have even better ideas or things that could go cross department that can help multiple units. So that's why I'm always dubious about companies or new businesses that are just showcasing, hey, this automation can help you with lead gen. This automation can do this. It's like, how do you know? Because the process of one business is different than the other. And maybe that's not the priority. Maybe it's something else. And them paying $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 for just that one automation may not be the best use of their money right then. It could be something completely different. How many times have we heard people like, we've got one person and all they do is go out, take pictures, and then take notes and then come back and write the notes. Instead of having a lead gen automation, why don't you have an automation that is recording and then report? Very simple. Not as complex as some of the other automations, but instead of that person spending 4 hours a day, that person spends 20 minutes doing that report. What else could they be doing? That has more impact than whatever this automation, but you won't know until you actually go out and do a discovery with your entire company.
Well, and I think the old saying of, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there, really it leads to that. I think that, with the analogy of if you're planning a trip to Europe, you're going to go to Paris, well, you know your destination. Well, now there's lots of options as to whether you're going to stay in a 5-star hotel or whether you're going to stay in a hostel, whether you're going to fly economy or first class. And I think that's the same thing with AI, is it you need to know where you're going and what the goals are. And that's what that discovery and strategy session lays out for you, so you can identify what all the options are, so you're getting the best return on your investment. And ultimately, you're going to get the best outcome. And I know that a lot of business owners don't love the idea of paying for strategy. Lots of companies have paid for marketing strategies and everything else, and they go, it's just wasted paper. I think this is different because it's so new, where you have to kind of go through your operations. We have lots of meetings where we go in and we say, repetitive, data-driven, predictive tasks, and that's where that 10 to 40% can come in. And people are like, nah, I don't have anything that's really repetitive. And then you spend 20 minutes with them and you come up with 8 or 10 tasks that are repetitive. And you're going, okay, well, we could save you 15 hours a week right here. We see that every single meeting we have with clients. So I think that's the big thing with the importance of a strategy.
And when we talk about a little bit about the budget too, right? You mentioned, hey, you may have to pull a little bit from this department. There is another option too, because a lot of the governments today, and even profits and nonprofits, there's a lot of external funding that you can actually look for. A lot of people kind of forget this, but with a lot of governments that are, focusing on, hey, how do we get AI into our companies? Like, how do we get more people using it, improve our efficiencies and whatnot? And, since we're in Canada, it's kind of funny, the tariffs and what's happening there for companies who are a little worried about the impact on their bottom line. Well, here's one thing that you can augment to start saving and increasing your own productivity and efficiency too, right? So there are grants, there are funding mechanisms, there are loans to go out, and all you need to do is just go find them. Use a Perplexity, use a ChatGPT with search, go try to find these grants and see what you can do, because I know the governments are really trying to encourage people and businesses for use.
Well, we know that. I mean, the federal government in Canada here has put out, $250 million, $300 million towards investment. I think there's about 34 million allocated for the prairie provinces, and that can be found online through the regional diversification. But that funding is there, and that is for private organizations where you can get funding available to build out AI applications. So absolutely. And again, I can't emphasize enough that this is about return on investment. This isn't about buying the latest widget or getting caught up in a trend. This is about return on investment. And I know that for every business executive that's out there, that yes, they're very cautious in spending money, but they're all about return on investment. And sometimes where we get the most positive response is when we're talking to the CFO of a company, because they clearly see it. They go, if we can save here, if we can save there, if we can save in these processes, they're all about the cost savings. So I think that it's just a matter of identifying those opportunities.
Well, it's interesting because when you mention marketing, and I've sat on the other side, pitching and all that kind of stuff. And it's hard because you can always see the CFO giving you that dirty little look and be like, so how are you adding to our bottom line with your social campaign or content campaign? And they can't see the connection. Now, this is not a knock on marketing, because there's that it's a much harder thing to get that connection. And we've seen it that, proper marketing actually gets you, the pretty high return, but it's hard to see sometimes that direct connection. Versus AI, it's like, we can save you 30 to 40 hours a month. Like, what can that do for your business? And you can see the direct correlation with anything that's repetitive too. One thing I wanted to ask you this: when will businesses actually see that return on investment if they make that investment?
You know what? It's so new, and we have clients that are just, have been integrating things over the past year. I think there's some real quick wins that you can see. The example that you used of somebody going around and spending 4 hours to do a report that can now do it in 20 minutes. Well, that means that they can get in, 2 or 3 or more reports a day. I think there's some significant immediate returns you can see, but I think there's also going to be some that might take a little bit longer, because it's that whole change management. You've got to get the organization up to speed on it, make sure everybody's using it. That might take a little bit longer, but I mean, I don't know. From what we've seen, a lot of it is fairly quick returns, unless you go to things like, digital assistants and chatbots and whatnot, where you're kind of customer facing. That's more along the lines of the marketing side, where there is a real, it's tough to do a direct connection. I worked in television business for years, and somebody would run a TV campaign, and they say, well, your TV isn't working, but my coupon would work, because somebody would walk in with a coupon, right? But they didn't realize the impact that TV puts people into the market. And so I think you're going to see that with AI. You can, and we have examples of clients where you've built out digital assistants, and you could see the trend where people weren't surfing through the website. They were relying on the digital assistant more than surfing through the website. So if you do that for 6 months or a year, I think you're going to see way more engagement from customers.
Question for the audience here is, what's one area in your business where AI could cut costs or boost efficiency? And do you know how much of your current budget is wasted on repetitive tasks? And I bet you some you don't, that AI could potentially automate. Learn how AI can impact your business by watching these videos here. Enjoy today's episode? Want to know how you can leverage AI for your company? Then please subscribe to this channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next episode.